steadily it rises. Public preference for Lincoln Continental as the symbol for today's luxury motoring.
Hey, it's Jason ODB, the Lincoln Addict. Let's take a look at this 1963 Lincoln Continental Convertible listing. You'll see here, it's clear I am on eBay. I haven't done an eBay review in a while. Primarily been focusing on Bring a Trailer, but I said, hey, let's slow it down a little bit and jump back over to eBay. But if we take a look at the 63 Lincoln Continental Convertible and we jump over to Hagerty, this is not a paid sponsorship. I do have Hagerty as my personal insurance on my Lincoln cars, and I love having access to log in and see these prices. We could see their asking price or buy it now, although they do have make an offer, is $85,000. And you would argue, hey, that's kind of a high price, but it technically falls in between a concourse number one and an excellent condition. So number one, concourse condition. Number two, excellent condition. And you can kind of go down here and see a little bit different information. The photos don't always align perfectly with the years, but they do kind of call out and they show some of the data there. But let's take a look and see, is it worth $85,000 or close to that? So I am going to do something a little bit different and try to streamline these reviews. If we look at the description, there's not a lot of information here. It does look like it's a dealer, so to speak, although they do say that they're a private collector and one of the largest classic car wholesalers in the country. So they kind of just show you very, very basic information. It says the odometer reads 16,000. We pretty much know it's not going to be a 16,000 mile car. I really wish that folks would just say, odometer reads this. Pretty sure it's turned over, so it's more than likely 116,000. It could be 216,000. We really don't know. But what I want to do is take a look at the photos. So when I go through these photos, they're all solid photos, right? They're all about 20, 30 footers, if you will. And that's something that usually kind of causes me to want to look a little bit closer. And if I tell you what I like about this listing, so I'm going to try to break this one down, what I like, and then what the listing's lacking or what you may need to know if you were looking to buy this car. So basically, it's a classy color. White, I think, is a very underrated color, especially in these year Lincolns. And I think it just overall is a classy color. There are a solid amount of photos. I wanted to say there's a lot of photos, but I think there's a decent amount of photos. Now, if we scroll down here, typically you're going to say, hey, well, Jason, you can scroll down here and see a little bit bigger photos, maybe sometimes even more. If I scroll all the way down, there are additional photos, which is great. So again, there's a solid amount, much more than some of the listings we've seen. Now, additionally, what I like about this is there is a video. So I'm going to scroll back up here to video. Now, although there is only one, I'm going to turn this down. You can see it's another video that, you have the other perspective here, the guy pulling out. You can kind of hear him get on there a little bit. So there's the third person perspective there. Turns around, drives back. So you don't really get a chance at that so far to kind of sort of to ride in the car, so to speak. But again, this is another great aspect. The person shows the top working all the way into the trunk. He's holding the switch, what he has to do. Let's go back here and see the deck load close. It starts to click there. You can see there is an adjustment that needs to be made. It appears in this flapper panel, what it's kind of often referred to as. And then he immediately, after he heard the click, 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 which kind of tells you, you see there again, I do think it needs a little adjustment. But again, this is the key. This is something I like. The video. There are people that will sell these cars and they do not show the videos, and often that's because the top simply does not work, and that includes Bring a Trailer. I've seen that on there as well. If I kind of fast forward this, obviously it takes about a minute for the cycle, as John Cashman used to say. And he's got the walk around here. Now, when I had watched this video, I was listening to make sure he had turned off the car, and I do believe that he does, which that's important, as I mentioned in other videos. And then he starts it back up. But here's the thing I wanted to point out. What does he do? He leaves the car running. So again, this is a PSA. Do not leave these cars running. The cars, just like other Fords of this era, are known and do fall into neutral. Or excuse me, into reverse. They'll fall from park into reverse, and they can and will cause damage. They can also, it could kill someone, okay? So don't ever do what this person's doing here. And again, it's no slight against them, but I just want to point that out. We can also see it does have a 2-port, so it's got the 1-2 screws, and you can see here, this is where it tees in. So anytime you see this brass fitting, you know it's a 2-port, and again, you can see 1-2. This is an AC car. Per the seller, it does blow cold, so we can see the air condition here. It's got like a newer style compressor, although it still looks like the old York. So you'll see guys upgrade to the newer sanding compressors. This compressor is what I'll be using on my car. It looks just very similar to the original, and it's got the newer service valves. I don't think whoever did this, they did not clock this right. So whenever you take these hoses to, like, let's say a hose place, or if you have the equipment like I do and you can crimp these ends on, I just would call out, this guy here looks like it's a little twisted. So again, what you have to end up doing is you have to twist those in and kind of clock them, is the way I explain it. Clock it correctly so that it doesn't have that little bow in it right there. But again, that's very nitpicky. I'm going to hit escape here or try to close this. I'm used to bring a trailer. And let's try to close this. Yeah, let's close it here. Okay, I'll figure this out. In addition, I do think under the deck lid does look pretty solid. We saw some of the photos above, and I hate to keep scrolling back and forth here. We'll see if we see any down here. Underneath the deck lid, like I said, a lot of these can be very crunchy, so to speak, and that's something I've hit on the past. But really, when I look, at least from this angle, more than likely it's been resprayed at some point, so we can't really see everything here. You know, you could kind of look in here and say, okay, is it perfect? Maybe not. But again, we have seen, especially on this channel, we have seen far worse. Now, the other thing that I think is important that I never really talk about, or I guess I have mentioned, down here, it said there's a disclaimer. People have different opinions and expectations of older cars. It is your responsibility to personally inspect the vehicle or send a third-party inspector that will perform the inspection to your satisfaction. Remember, this vehicle is from the 1930s, which again, this is a copy and paste. That's a typo. And even though I've tried to do my best to describe it, it can have some imperfections, which I'm not aware of. So that's an important statement to make, obviously, saying, hey, I'm not going to be responsible if you don't come and look at this car or whatever. But I do think that's important because, again, we can sometimes glean a lot from these listings, and other times we can't see it all. Now, what is lacking in this listing? So, do the windows work? Okay, I have stressed this. How can you have a 60s convertible? One, in the video, windows do not operate. We don't really see many photos of the windows down, right? The top is disguising, it's going, hey, man, look at me, buy this car, top down, sunny California. It's going, hey, buy me. But again, you're going to get a car, let's say you buy it, and none of the windows work, okay? So that's a big thing, right? There's no photos of the VIN plate. So I've talked about in the past how the VIN plate will tell a little bit of a story on what color and what DSO it was. Was it a California DSO? If it was a destination sales office to California, the car is going to be worth more potentially because it was a Southern California car, right? If it was a Los Angeles DSO. Was it a Connecticut DSO where it spent all of its time, if you will, in a state where, the cars are known to maybe be rusty, right? And things like that, or whatever state. So you can insert nothing against Connecticut there. So again, there's no photo of the VIN plate, and that could to lead to other things like, okay, why is there no photo of it? Was it maybe changed? We don't know. Another reason I like Bring a Trailer, they generally will show and break down the VIN. So I think that's a pretty cool thing they do. Again, the DSO would be something I would want to see. Was it an original white car? I definitely assume that it was. Now, I have read, and I need to, next time I'm at Tony's, I need to take a look, or at Chris Dunn over at Lincoln Land's place. The VIN plate, I believe, has been documented in 2 different locations on the 63, so you guys could chime in. For most of the production run, my understanding it was near the left front door hinge and could be seen with the driver's door open. Late in production, the plate was moved to the left front door and could be seen on the rear latch facing of the door, so mounted vertically. So I do believe there's a couple of places on 63, and if you guys own a 63, chime in. That's just something that I was doing some research on, and I noticed someone had commented before, and I wanted to kind of double check that, so I wanted to bring it up. Going back to the windows, do the rear auto drops work? Okay. Remember, this is going to cost you, 1, if you want them working, 2, if you ever put new seals, which we'll talk more about in a minute. If you go to Steel Rubber, who I suggest, and you put those new seals in, they're going to get torn up if the auto drops aren't working. So there's a seal that goes all right here in the convertible, and these are pretty expensive. It comes in a set. And if you change those, let's say you pay someone to do it and you do all of that, if this auto drop is not working when your rear passengers or when you open and close those rear doors, this window is going to get caught and it's going to mess up that nice new, fairly expensive seal, so to speak, right? So you want those rear auto drops working. Now, if the windows did work, you could hypothetically say, well, Jason, I'm just going to use the front and I'm going to put them down a little bit, open the doors, and then put them back up, with the front switch or the rear switches. If they worked in the car, certainly you could do that. Do the rear auto drops work at all? Again, I kind of was kind of going through that. Note the discoloration that I notice on the front seat. So again, this, I understand, is not a perfect car, so to speak, and the guy's saying, hey, it's not perfect, but anytime I look at these, and I've kind of called this out in the past, these seats, you can see a little bit of discoloration here. So it's not the end of the world. You might say, hey, Jason, I'm going to buy the car. I'm going to redo the interior. I'm going to get a Jim Wallace kit. Maybe you're going to do a customization. No problem. But if you were looking to get this car and keep your costs reasonable and get in and drive with the family, I would say to take a look at these seats. I have seen used car dealers. I have seen different brokers and different folks over the course of time bring in some of these experts that can come in here with, little airbrush guns and different kind of material. There's videos on YouTube on how you can kind of go back and repair seats and like little rips and tears and whatnot. But again, these seats are typically very, very comfortable. I love riding in a Lincoln Continental, especially with an original seat. But with a little bit of discoloration here, that might be added cost. You might get it and say, wow, this seat looked great from 20 feet away, but, I kind of don't like, maybe it's coming apart, whatever's on this here, it looks a little bit suspect. Now, custom console, so that could easily be removed. So if you look at the front and rear, this is obviously custom, and those are type of things like, hey, I think it's cool. I like custom Lincolns. You guys probably recall. I've been into these cars a long time. I love custom. I love original. This stuff here is easily removed if you don't like it. I think it's cool. You got your cup holder here. You got your head unit and whatnot. And again, if it's something you don't like, you can easily take out. It does have the 2-port fuel pump, which we talked about. That could easily be changed. And oftentimes, something that's very, a little bit deceiving is people will say that these cars are highly optioned, okay? The key here is these cars came with a lot of features. And I could break down every single feature. There's a lot of them that technically, there are some features you could add, so don't get me wrong. But like a few of them, for instance, I wouldn't say this car is highly optioned. I would say it has air conditioning, which is about $505. It looks like it has, I believe it has the power vent windows. That became standard in early production. I think it was about a $75 option. You could slice or dice and say, hey, was that an option? Leather upholstery, that was standard on the convertibles. It was $100 on sedans. And the automatic headlight dimmer is the other one that we can see. And I believe that was around $45 option. And that is I always say it wrong. I think the best way for me to describe it is automatic headlight dimmer. I think it had a name. Some of you guys could chime in. It's a word with an A. And it was something I think GM used a different term, but it was the same technology, my understanding. But anytime you see this little guy here on the dash, it's for the automatic headlight dimmer. So again, you will sometimes see people say that these cars are highly optioned. Listen, they come with a lot of features. So I would love on a listing, for someone to say, hey, here's all the extra options that it has. But, typically someone selling one of these cars, they haven't done enough research, or they just may simply not know. And again, that's no slight against them. But again, I wouldn't say that this is a highly optioned car, so to speak. I guess to sum it up and keeping these videos a little shorter, to sum it up, I would say, listen, you would have to look at this car. They're offering this car at a concourse / excellent condition, which we saw over here on Haggerty in terms of the price in between here. There's no telling. They may take, a lot less for this car, 60 grand. I don't know. A little suspicious that they're not showing the VIN tag. What's going on there? And again, I am not insinuating anything bad with this car, but all of the photos are 20-footers. There's a couple photos underneath. I wish there were more. The trunk looks good, so I didn't really mention that with all the carpet kit, but this kit could have been thrown in here, and whatever's underneath it can be deceiving. Also, there's a lot of black paint that's sprayed on the air cleaner and these valve covers. It looks like somebody just got in here with a rattle can and sprayed some paint, and you look and you go, oh, wow, it looks pretty nice. Doesn't look bad. These things can be very deceiving. Did someone get this car, recently and just do a quick job on it to kind of hide some stuff and conceal some stuff? You just don't know. Underneath here, you can see that these were changed as well. You can get these from different vendors, and that goes, under the hood. My biggest thing is I would want to see a little bit more photos underneath. This does look pretty good. So my gut feeling is it's not a rusty car, which I think is good. There's, some little maybe suspect areas, but nothing crazy. We've seen far worse. But definitely I want to see inside the rear door, or the passenger. I want to see inside the driver door to see that VIN plate. I think that's it. And again, not trying to nail or cut down any of these sellers. I want everyone to get their money for their cars, but I'm more on the side of the consumer. I want for you, if you're looking to buy one of these cars, to get one that you can put your family in and feel safe and get out there and cruise in California or whatever state you live in. And last thing is, it does have the single reservoir, so I would highly suggest that would be changed to the dual, because if this goes out, you have no brakes. So, anyways, solid? Yes, maybe. Definitely some things to investigate if you're looking to buy it. I would take a look at the prices and see. It might be more down towards a $50,000 to $60,000 car or less. You'll just have to see. Stay on the rise. I appreciate all the support, and we'll hit you soon with another video. I guarantee that. We out of here. Peace.